The stories of revenge have been done a lot of times in different forms of media before. In November 2023, Netflix delivered one of the best revenge stories in recent years. An animated spectacle called Blue Eye Samurai, created by Michael Green and Amber Noizumi, co-produced and animated by French company Blue Spirit Animation, best known for its animated movies that received Oscars nominations, Ernest and Celestine in 2013 and My Life as a Zucchini in 2017, as well as for Marvel's What If show. This video is I'll divide in two separate parts. In the first part, I'll share the impressions that I got without any spoilers. In the second part, I'll dive into more details with spoilers. So if you haven't seen the show and wanna know whether you should spend your time on this one, you can watch the first part until the spoiler warning appears. Blue Eye Samurai tells the story of a young warrior named Mizu. The show takes place in 17th century Japan, early Edo period. Japan is a closed country which doesn't allow any foreigners in, but the shogun, a military commander of Japan, allowed 4 white men into the country to sell opium and make profit which they are supposed to share with the shogun. That's the condition. As a result, Mizu was born. She is half white and half Japanese. Her piercing blue eyes give away her white blood, and because of that Mizu was shunned and hated by Japanese people, who even nicknamed her Devil. One day her home was burned and her mother was murdered. That very day Mizu swore to avenge her mother and herself, and to kill all 4 white men that were in Japan. Any of them could be her father. Mizu found a shelter under the roof of a blind legendary swordsmith named Master Eiji, who allowed Mizu to stay and assist him. While living with Eiji and helping him in his craft, Mizu taught herself how to use the sword and how to fight like a samurai. Being persistent in her goal to avenge her mother and herself, she became one of the strongest warriors in Japan. After coming of age and getting confident, Mizu decided to leave Master Eiji and go after those who she swore to find and kill. She had to wear colorful glasses to conceal blue eyes and pretend to be a man for the purposes of safety. When the show starts, Mizu already killed one of the 4 white men, and now she is looking for her next target, an Irishman named Abijah Fowler, who made a huge fortune illegally selling opium. The show's structure is similar to that of a video game. There is a final boss that we must find and defeat, and every episode is a different level, different locations, different sets of enemies, and also different ways to defeat the enemies. Open fight, or stealth when the fight takes place in a confined space and there are too many enemies. Like a video game character, Mizu must navigate through hordes of enemies, solving different puzzles and collecting valuable information piece by piece. And the final big boss, Abijah Fowler, is waiting in his castle. At times watching Blue Eye Samurai definitely feels like watching gameplay of a new video game. The closest comparison to the show, however, is not a video game, but John Wick movie series. In both stories, the main character seeks revenge. Both John Wick and Mizu do not mind slaughtering tons of enemies on the way. Blue Eye Samurai and John Wick also share great cinematography and imaginative fight scenes, as well as the main character's invincibility. A lot of gore and blood certainly play a huge role, making everything look and feel more real. And every time Mizu has to fight someone, we feel nervous as if Mizu can die. But of course she can't. Mizu might get seriously hurt or even lose an important fight, but she'll always survive to finish her job. The show is not fantasy, but it cleverly incorporates fantasy elements. Trying to break into the Fowler's castle, Mizu inhales the spores of a special flower that makes her hallucinate and trip. She sees prisoners from Fowler's dungeon as an army of creepy ghouls. Another important character is Akemi. She grew up as an only child in a rich family, always getting what she wanted, and not knowing much hardship that women have to experience in patriarchal societies such as Edo-period Japan. When she comes of age, she convinces her father to allow her to marry ambitious swordsman Taigen, who doesn't come from a wealthy family but wants to become a great warrior someday. However, Taigen gets disgraced by Mizu, who cuts his hair in a fight, a mark of shame for any samurai. Taigen becomes an unsuitable groom, so Akemi's father forces her to marry one of Shogun's sons, against her will. Taigen swears to defeat Mizu in a duel and restore his honor, so the young and ambitious samurai goes after Mizu. Akemi, not knowing what else she can possibly do, runs from her father and tries to find Taigen. Akemi's story is about searching who you really are, where you belong, and fighting against society norms. Akemi doesn't want to be a wife for a man she doesn't even know, but women in that period of time had, for the most part, only two options in life: becoming a wife or becoming a sex worker. Women were in many ways subordinate to men and possessed much less rights, if any. Women couldn't even own property and were treated like servants regardless of status. But Akemi doesn't want that. Akemi desperately wants to find something for herself. She doesn't want to be a housewife for a rich man. Her journey is a story of becoming mature and finding what she really wants. The show has a lot of nudity and sex scenes, but sex scenes here serve an important narrative role, especially for Akemi. Akemi only allows a man to touch her when she feels comfortable, when she feels like she can trust that man. She doesn't let the man in a brothel touch her, but she has sex with the shogun's son after learning that he is not the brute she expected him to be. The French-Canadian studio Blue Spirit worked on animation. Creators of the show Michael Green and Amber Noizumi wanted to make the show look and feel like a moving painting by combining elements of 3D and 2D animation. It took more time and money than more traditional 2D animation, but the result looks stunning. The animation truly is impressive, and fight scenes in particular look astounding. Blue Eye Samurai is great at subverting expectations and has a lot of unexpected turns of the plot, which makes the show unpredictable and more intriguing to watch. One of the best things about the show is that the main character has a lot of flaws. In many ways, Mizu is not a good person. She doesn't care about anyone and is ready to sacrifice other people, even those who put their trust in her, if that's what it takes to reach her goal. Blue Eye Samurai is certainly one of the best shows that Netflix released, and the comparison with Arcane and other animated masterpieces isn't too far-fetched. It is an incredibly crafted story of revenge, with strong writing and animation. It definitely deserves attention. Now let's talk a bit with spoilers. First of all, the thing that bothered me most is that Mizu does look like a woman. She does sound like one too. But she somehow managed to convince everyone that she was a man. The show strangely makes a big deal of this reveal at the end of episode 1, like it's supposed to be shocking to us as viewers, but we know that Mizu is not a man anyway. I guess the reason why Mizu is so easily confused for a man is that what she does, traveling by herself and fighting like an actual samurai, is almost completely unheard of for a woman in Edo-period Japan. Mizu can defeat any enemy in the show. Even the most skilled samurais like Taigen are not an obstacle. But she somehow loses in a close combat to Abijah Fowler. Fowler is the only one who doesn't even fear Mizu and can bear hug her almost to death. Does this mean Fowler is the strongest warrior in all of Japan? And how did he learn the art of swords so well? He must have dedicated a lot of time into this. Which is not very surprising considering Fowler was effectively stuck in his castle, since his very existence in Japan goes against the country's law, and he could only visit Shogun occasionally to bring Shogun's share of opium money. In the last episode, Fowler had at least one great opportunity to kill both Taigen and Mizu. They were lying on the floor and Fowler could easily destroy both of them with his bare hands, but he decided to run away, leaving Mizu and Taigen alive. It was extremely out of character because we already had a pretty good idea of him as a character. He was waiting for Mizu in his castle, not showing a single sign of fear at all, and almost killed her. She survived only by jumping off the tower. And now the same man is running away when he has a perfect chance to finish a person that won't stop until she gets him. Mizu gets Fowler after all, but spares his life instead of killing him. He isn't her father, but he knows where to find him. In London. So Mizu spares Fowler's life so he could help her find her real father. I think it makes sense because Mizu doesn't speak English and never left Japan, So it would have been way harder for her to go to London on her own and find her father than to find Flower in Japan, where at least she can talk to people. But who's to say that Flower won't betray her? And who's to say that Flower actually told her the truth and that her actual father is indeed in London? Mizu at the beginning of the show would have just slayed Abijah Flower after hearing about London. But she went through personal change and taught herself to be more rational and even compassionate as opposed to being absolutely cold and closed. The moment Mizu allowed Akemi to be taken away instead of protecting her, that moment seriously affected Mizu, and the reaction from Ringo, who idolized Mizu and wanted to be like her. This is why Mizu spared Flower's life. She learned how to be more calculated. She wanted to kill Flower with her bare hands but stopped herself. If Mizu goes to England and the company of Flower is a captive, how will the story unfold for other characters? Taigen, Akemi, Ringo, will the three storylines just go separately? Or going to London won't take an entire season? Maybe Mizu will find out that an Irishman deceived her and the white man who might be her father is in Japan. Or maybe her father was Japanese but her mother was white. We know that the woman who Mizu believed to be her mother was actually her maid, paid to take care of Mizu. Anyway, the show lost unexpected plot twists, so I think the story will unfold in a way that we do not expect. If we'll get the second season, of course. Knowing Netflix, it is not 100% guaranteed. But I hope the show is popular enough for Netflix to greenlight the second season. Speaking of not the most expected twists, Mizu isn't the only one who changed. Akemi changed too. She realized that she can have enough power to change the lifestyle and mindset of her people. Instead of running away with Taigen, which she would have done just a couple of episodes before the ending, she decides to stay with Shogun-san and try to influence politics through her position. If she ran away with Taigen, she could probably live a pretty decent and somewhat free but meaningless life. And Akemi wants her life to actually matter. This is why she abandons Taigen. She'll try to make life better for other women in Japan, and something tells me that her and Mizu's paths will cross again, probably when we won't even expect that.